Okay, I feel like it's slowing down, so I'll just get started with our speaker introduction. So today, everyone, we have a speaker from Robbins LLP, which is a complex litigation law firm that helps shareholders and consumers recover losses, improve corporate governance structures, and hold corporate executives accountable for their corporate mismanagement, anti-competitive misconduct, and dishonest sales practices. Our speaker, Aaron Dumas Jr., is an associate of the firm, and he has represented individuals and institutional shareholders in a variety of complex matters. He has experience conducting extensive legal research and document review, drafting motions, settlement offers, and litigation and inspection demands. He also helps analyze the firm's new matters, including onboarding the firm's clients, maintaining relationships, and ensuring outstanding client support and engagement throughout the litigation process. And he received his JD from USD School of Law. So very excited to welcome you. So do you want to go ahead and get started?
All right. It's always interesting hearing my firm bio because it makes my days seem busier than they probably are. Um, if you guys are all pre-law, I guess, so, or at the very least, interested in being law students. So to be fair, I actually got into medical school originally, and at the very last second changed my mind. I did the MCATs, did all of that, and then changed my mind at the very, very last minute. So you guys are absolutely steps ahead of where I was at this stage. The good thing is, though, that there is no actual requirement for being a law student. So I just want to give that little bit of background before I tell you that my degree is in zoology. So I am probably one of the weirder lawyers you'll meet. A lot of people try to make really corny jokes to me about whether I'm the lawyer for the zoo or whether I'm the law racks or just any amount of corny jokes. And I gotta be honest with you, the biggest flaw with attorneys is that we all think we're funnier than we are. So I'm probably gonna try and make a few jokes as we go along. They're probably not gonna land, but at least I'm doing that move where if you're writing a bad movie, then you immediately put in the bad movie that you're making a bad movie and try and get away with it. So I, like I said, I have a zoology background. I went to the University of Texas, soon to be national champs 2025. Um, I worked in various litigation firms. I actually worked for our firm's most direct rival because I have zero loyalty and my biggest concern is the paycheck. Not at all. My biggest concern is, of course, my clients. How my clients get me the paycheck is the next concern. We all live in San Diego. It's a very expensive place to live. I've got to be a practical man. So I I did again the zoology thing because I thought one of the best things to do, even when I was pre-med, was to get at least a well-rounded education. So let me really, really try and stress this to you. Take the classes you want to take. I'm sure your pre-law advisor will say you have to take humanities, and I'm guessing a lot of you guys are either finance majors or humanities majors, maybe literature, history. Sure, take whatever you like. But if you see something out there, a class that you enjoy, just take it because the part that's going to matter for your law school resume is going to be your grades and your LSAT. So take whatever you like, do that. Um, the law school experience is fascinating once you get there because you're going to be there with the cream of the crop. So everyone there is going to be just as smart as you or maybe smarter. I'm the kind of cocky where I think no one's smarter than me. My grades did not reflect that, but internally I still believe no one's smart. So you're gonna be the best of the best. So you may be an A student now and then you get into law school and there's that one class that doesn't click. For me, it was properties. And you'd think properties is something simple. It's just, person A wants to buy land from person B and then eventually give it to their kids C. And it just wouldn't click. And you know what? I hate property to this day. And I still like want to trip every property lawyer I see. but it's, it's essential. It's a useful class. So property humbled me really quickly. And you will find that, as cocky as we all are, most lawyers tend to be type A personalities. You'll be very aggressive. You'll be go-getters, but don't be ashamed and don't be hurt and don't be embarrassed by those moments when you're just not able to grasp something. There's what, 10,000 lawyers in California every year. Somebody will be able to help you and guide you through it. So don't worry about that. And you guys after this will have our firm's info. You can always reach out to us. We have a dedicated team of attorneys. We're always willing to help. We're there for you. We'll walk you through whatever you need to do. Allow me a moment to just smile because I'm a Braves fan and I just got the alert. I thought the game would be over before we kicked in. So I swear I won't keep looking side to side anymore. I won't be as distracted. But just I'm even happier to be here with you guys now. So the Braves are in the playoffs. Uh, the firm told me I should definitely talk to you guys about my key influences and motivations for joining the field of law. That's a really sticky subject because, as I told you, I always wanted to be a doctor, and as a kid, I wanted to be both a doctor and a lawyer, and I even got into Case Western, which allows a double. And then I realized I just did not want to be around sick people, which is ironic coming out of COVID. So the path that I took, again, obscure, unusual. The biggest influence on my wanting to be an attorney is probably because I really do just argue a lot. There's that thing when you're a kid. I grew up in Jamaica, and it's just the default. If you're a kid that argues, everyone says you're going to be an attorney, and then I'd argue with them about that. So I guess they won, and I took the L. But it's an L that came with great privilege, and it's one of the things I used to look at was for years almost every major politician in America was an attorney or had an attorney on their team. So this year, not to talk politics per se, but this is the first year in I think 40 or 50 years that the Democrats have had a vice presidential candidate that did not attend law school. So that should show you how much of a path being a lawyer has always been for just a career political path. So if I don't actually crave the desire to be in politics, but as a younger person, I thought if you want influence, it helps to be an attorney. And if you want to work in the background, like I have a few friends who became attorneys just so that they could go into administrative roles because the belief was that they'd always have that power and that ability to keep going. Uh, I'm terrible at talking about myself because I always want to make jokes, as I said. So, our key practice areas for the firm, we're very big on securities litigation. Oh, by the way, excuse me not wearing the suit. I decided that I should be the most honest with you guys. And let me be real, I'm a corporate attorney. TV fools everyone into thinking attorneys dress up. I have over a dozen suits and I've worn two this year. And it's only because I went to dinners. I the court has to fight me to put a suit on. I got away with wearing a t-shirt to one of my mediations because I subbed in at the last minute for a partner and I did it from my car driving, and the court was they allowed it. And the only agreement was that I wouldn't be typing anything because I was driving to LA, and we all know how LA traffic is. There's no as making the mediation. So to be fair, I could have put a suit on for you. I probably should have. If the firm asks, we're all in this together. But let me be real, corporate attorneys, we do not wear suits. If you're looking to be in the most comfortable area of law on the West Coast, I should say, this is where you go. When I worked for an East Coast firm, they all wore suits and they always wanted us to to put suits on. And our side of the firm never did it unless a partner was visiting, and we'd get a 2-day notice and the warning for the rest of us to put our outfits on. So just, excuse the polo, but at least I'm being authentic. So we're a securities litigation firm. And what that means in the barest of terms is that we're the ones who go out and we fight for shareholders. So when someone, let's use Tesla, because Elon's always in the news. So that's an easy one. I'm not going to accidentally step on any toes. When Tesla does something, for instance, they had a racial discrimination suit, or they got in trouble with the feds because they weren't actually repairing cars. Typically, once that makes the news, it really affects the stock price. You guys are in San Diego. A lot of you probably have stock. If you have Tesla, you probably saw that your stock dropped about 15% 2 years ago. What happens is when that stock does a significant drop, someone somewhere is going to get mad and they're going to say, hey, let's bring litigation against Tesla. And what will happen then is that that one person brings the initial suit. And after they bring it, they're going to try and do a class, because the idea is that, you know, there's not just one guy owning Tesla in this world. It's ineffective to have everyone bring litigation at the same time. So we're going to join all those suits together. And what our claim to the court will be is we want to do a class, because this one person will represent everyone who has Tesla stock. And of course, there's going to be the back and forth. We're going to battle with the experts. We're going to have to prove why this harmed the shareholders. But at the very base of it, all of our litigation is based around making sure that shareholders are protected by whether the corporation did something wrong or members of the corporation did something wrong. So by doing what's known as shareholder rights litigation, we try to do a couple things. One of the big things we often do is known as corporate governance. So a shareholder comes to us and they say, okay, well, we know Tesla already has this class action going, and I'm going to get a piece of that. But what I also want to make sure is that the officers and directors who caused this harm, those guys will be held responsible, and they will have to disgorge some of their funds, and they'll bring some money back to the company. And we're going to bring that litigation. And we're going to try as hard as we can to make sure that the shareholder and the shareholders in general get changes to the board to improve what happens. So for instance, if we know, again, to stick with the Elon about 6 years ago had a consent decree where he couldn't tweet without his management team checking his tweets. Clearly that has changed. He's now back to tweeting at whatever night time he wants to do. But this is not insider information because we already own it. But when Elon used to do his tweet rampages, I used to follow it carefully, because when Elon tweeted out randomly that he was thinking about buying Twitter, it was about 3 a.m. in California time. By the way, don't stay up as late as I do. I'm a terrible attorney. I'm just always up. But I immediately bought as much Twitter as I had cash on hand, because Twitter at the time was trading at around $24, and he announced he was going to take it private. And that stock shot up to 48. So for all of his silliness, he's actually made some of us some money. Maybe the rest of you have suffered, but shout out to my life. But moments like that actually can harm the company, right? Because by tweeting that he was going to take over Twitter, Tesla actually was harmed, because the stock, people were like, well, Elon's going to be distracted. He's going to be divided. How's he going to be in charge of two companies? Already got SpaceX going. A general shareholder probably doesn't care about that, but the savvy one might. And to realize that the company is going to be split and harmed, you tend to then add some corporate governance. We want to take away from Elon the power of being able to spend 6 hours on Twitter and 10 hours at Tesla and 5 hours at SpaceX. I have no idea if that math is right. That's probably still not 24 hours, but I went to law school, not math school. I won't even pretend. I'm pretty sure that's just 21 hours. So maybe he slept 3. Whatever it was, we want to make sure that the company itself is still being run adequately and correctly. So we'll ask to make changes, and we'll have the court go through, and the court will adjust it. Another big area for us, and by the way, if I'm hopping, skipping, just let me know. I'm just giving you a rundown. I'm probably talking at a level that might be even too basic for you, or maybe too high level. Who knows? Let me know. I'm always happy to adjust. But one of the other big things we like to do are whistleblower cases. And if any of you guys have a whistleblower case, bring it to us. Because here's the thing about a whistleblower case. The government pays you a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. The last few whistleblowers have made about $10 million. And in a whistleblower case, your main goal is to bring information to the government that has not become publicly available yet about a company that's harming the government. So for instance, if the company creates airplanes and you know that the government's buying airplanes from them, but they haven't tightened the door screws on any of those planes, and you're the first to tell the government. By the way, don't just email them. You need to go through an attorney, because if you just email them, then they'll say, "Oh, you did not apply to be a whistleblower. And we already know the information." The minute the government knows it or the public knows it, you cannot be a whistleblower. So always contact the attorney first, and then hopefully us. But I can't tell you that you can only go to us, and then have the attorney contact the government, because you are required to make at least 10% of the recovery, or a minimum of, I think, $1 million. I may be off in figures, but it's I don't know anyone that has made less than $1 million on a whistleblower. So you're gonna get a lot of cash. And being a whistleblower, in most cases, literally the person just says one time, "Hey, I know that X company is doing this and defrauding the government because of this." And then the attorneys, my team, as well as the government, has to do all of the hard work. So quite a few whistleblowers have yelled out into the darkness and then disappeared to Fiji, because it's as easy as that. I guess I don't want to go too long, but all right, handling litigation. Litigation itself is complex. We we employ, I think, almost 24 attorneys at this stage, as well as we have both a research team, litigation support team. It's hard work in terms of trying to produce a case. There's a reason why you rarely ever see one guy in court going against a big corporation. Is it possible? Sure. Is it practical? No. So if you want to do this type of work, you do need to latch on to a bigger firm. It's very rare that you could just strike out on your own and do this. I have worked solo. I did criminal defense and personal injury. So if you do have questions about being a solo, I'm happy to help you there. But in terms of corporate litigation, you're almost always going to want to latch on with a bigger firm. Uh, let's go with questions. I can go forever. I'm the son of a minister. All we do is talk. The son of a minister plus an attorney. We'll be here for 16 hours. So let's go with any questions you guys might have.
Okay, anyone can unmute or put it in the chat, whatever you guys want to do.
I guess I could go first. I'm just curious, you just mentioned the differences between like solo practitioner versus working for a big corporation. I'm just curious what the day-to-day differences are in your life and which you prefer.
Okay. So one of my coworkers is on here, so I'll say this. Day to day in the corporate world is definitely tough, but it's very streamlined in many ways. So I have a caseload that I handle. Then I also handle all of the incoming clients. I've tried to split my day, and don't be afraid of the numbers, because I don't sleep. So it's insomnia, not requirement. I do about 7 hours of client relation work and 7 hours of litigation work. But I think the typical attorney here is probably only pulling about 8 to 10 hours. So corporate definitely allows you a little bit more structure in terms of your day to day. You're not going to be as stressed. The workload is there. It's going to be coming in, but it's going to be manageable, at least I think. Working solo, the biggest scare is that if I mess up, there's no one to catch me. And when I went to court, let's say I'm defending somebody who I've never had a guilty client, because we all know I would never take on someone who's guilty. I mean, I was an ethical attorney. I did the best I could for everyone who was innocent. But if I messed up inside of that courtroom with someone's freedom, their freedom and their liberty was gonna be in my hands, and I had a hard time letting that go. And the problem too is then I also have to pay bills. So while I still believe that every single client I ever had was 100% innocent, I had to take on some people who might have seemed a little sketchy to the outside, because I had to pay those bills. And the workload was very intense. It was rewarding. I loved it. I loved not having to share any money with anyone else. I probably made the most money of my life working solo, but that's also the most nauseous of my life. I'm still trying to lose weight from working solo. So it's great. It's rewarding. And it's for a lot of people, that's the way to go, especially if you're not good in a team environment. But I love being with the firm. Do you hear that, Marlon? I love being with the firm because it is rewarding. And also, in general, though, we do get to help people, and the support system is great. So I do think a lot of times people go solo straight out of law school because it's hard to get a job. If you have the opportunity to get a job with a firm, I'd say go firm first because you can always go solo second. So I did mine a weird way. I did firm, solo, worked in Hollywood, back to legal. So I'm a bit of a, like I said, I have zero actual loyalty. Even while I love the firm, I'll do whatever I think is best for me at the time. So, and the law is very flexible. You can come and go. You're not gonna, it's not like medicine. At some point you're gonna run out of knowledge with medicine. You know, if your only day was when you used a scalpel and now they're using robots, you can't just jump back into medicine. But I took basically a year and a half to 2 years from the law and jumped right back in seamlessly. So it's a long way of saying pick whatever is best for you. If you know that you work best in a team environment, I think you'll love a law firm. And you know, law firms pay well, especially in San Diego. They pay better in LA, but the weather is greater here. So think factor that in. Also, as this will tie in. So I saw that John asked if for any tips for heading into 1L. My biggest tip is unless you really want to go to school, I go try to go to a law school that's in the area that you'd like to work. So if you want to stay in San Diego or in LA, try and go to a Southern California school. If you want to go up to the Bay Area, go to a Bay Area school. If you want to move to Florida and just decided you really love alligators, go to a Florida school. Typically, you want to stick with a school that's in the area because then the alumni group will be stronger and your networking group will be greater. It's you can obviously go to school anywhere you want, but that's just one of the things. But for the actual 1L year, I don't know why I'm steepling my fingers. I'm a bad habit. So 1L is insane. It's definitely insane. When you first get in, and it might be easier for you guys because again, many of you will be in humanities and things like that. But I was pre-med. I spent half my life inside of a lab. The other half I spent running away from writing papers. I never wrote a paper in undergrad. Like I schemed my way out of ever having to write a paper, and I tested out of English as whatever I always call it a 1L freshman. So you can you can find ways to never ever be in a paper class in undergrad. That's just not going to happen in law school unless you do what I did. And when I got to law school, signed on assistant. You're supposed to write a paper for at least at USD for to graduate. You're supposed to do at least one major paper. I never did it because since I worked with a faculty advisor, I was allowed to do research to avoid it. So you can game the system, but you can't sneak out of 1L work. You're gonna have to read. You're gonna have to read like you've never read before. The biggest thing in your first year is keeping up with the reading because they're gonna overwhelm you with reading. The trick is to weed out. Law schools won't say it, but the biggest thing they need to do is to condense their classes. So they want to keep their attrition rate low, but they are going to cut whoever they think will harm them in the second year. So you've got to keep up with the reading and definitely go and talk to the teachers. I never spoke to teachers in undergrad, but in law school you need to. I don't want to mispronounce the name, but someone has a question, so please feel free.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Herrera? Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay, so my question was about earlier you were referring to government planes. Were you referring to Boeing and like the situation they had where like they had the whole door jams, like because you had said doors and I instantly knew you were talking about that. I know a lot about like the science behind like all that happened there, but I want to know if you have any like insight to like the legality of it, because I know there was a lot of like whistleblowers, two of them got, ended up dying. I was wondering if you have like any insight on that situation.
So yes and no, right? No one really, well, I shouldn't say no one, someone might know, but publicly, no one knows why the whistleblowers faded away. But that's why I kind of joked about making your whistleblowing and then heading to Fiji or whatever. Because in theory, again, with whistleblowers, the big issue is that you have the insider knowledge that you then produce to the government. Now, as you mentioned, 2 people have died. I thought it was maybe 3 now, right? Isn't there a third with Spirit Arrow? But regardless.
Yeah, there's 3 whistleblowers. 2 of them died of unknown causes, and the third one's kind of scared for their life. That's from what I.
Right. And 2 of those unknown causes might have been airplanes. No, I'm kidding. The that is not the typical whistleblower. Okay, I just want this to be clear. This is probably more likely than not just coincidences happening. But so let me be very clear. The majority of whistleblowers, 99.99999% of whistleblowers, their only thing they've ever done is they mentioned what happened, the government does the investigation, the law firm does the investigation, and they walk away with millions. So please do not be afraid. I just used Boeing because it was contemporaneous. It's easy to remember the fact pattern, and that's it. I promise you, I have no insider knowledge. Please do not tell anyone. I would like to live at least a few more years. I am making bank right now. I've got my eye on that Bugatti. No, I'm kidding. I'll never buy a Bugatti. It's just a waste of money. But like, we're good. I promise you, I do not know anything. And if my door suddenly opens behind me, I'm closing this chat and running to the hills. I'm from Jamaica. I've got a nice house. I'll be okay. I promise you, though. Seriously,
Oh,
whistleblowing's easy.
yeah. I was just curious because I was just curious because I did pick up on it when you said doors. I was like, he's referring to the Boeing incident in January. Yeah, but
No, sir, you
yeah,
are not
I
getting me
appreciate
in this chat. No, I was kidding. Yeah, just again, all right. Sometimes it's a dog food. There's sometimes it's just as easy as that. I don't want us to focus on Boeing, and I don't want to die. Any more non-Boeing related questions?
Yeah, so I was just wondering, you have like a pretty diverse you have diverse experience in law. I was just wondering, so like how have those experiences helped you with where you are today in like the current field that you're working with?
I got you. Okay. So it's again, that's a nice way of saying you're a weirdo and you just can't stick to anything. And I appreciate it. It's fine. Part of the thing with me is that I've always wanted to test stuff out. So I wanted to go to court. And I hate doing this, but so when I was switching to law, and I had already, gone to med school, did all of that, and I went to the advisor, and she said to me, "Hey, I don't want you to switch to law because you think it's going to be like Ally McBeal." And this was in Texas, and I just out loud blurted, "Ma'am, I'm black. I've never seen Ally McBeal." Because at the time, I could not believe she had said to me that the law is not going to be like TV. I'm not going into the law to be a TV lawyer. I didn't watch legal shows. I didn't like Law and Order. I went into the law because I truly wanted at the time to help people. But one of the things that TV tricks you and the movies trick you into thinking is that lawyers are always in court. Our firm we've been around at this point. You know what? My mug will tell me. We've been around since 2002. We've gone to trial twice since 2002 because 98% of litigation settles. That's a rough math. Don't hold me on it, but it's about 98% that settles. We had a big trial that we were setting up for. Part of why I'm not even in office is because we were setting up our offices into a war room for our trial team, and we settled on the night of the trial. There's quite a few settlements on the doorsteps of the courthouse. It's literally a known thing. It's literally called doorstep settlements. So we settle all the time. Everyone settles. But I wanted to go to court. So that's why I switched to crim law for a little bit. Because if you want to see inside of a courtroom, definitely switch to crim law. between DUIs and minor incidents and accusations of domestic of any sort, you're gonna go. Even if you just, sometimes you're literally going just to settle, but because it's a criminal case, the settlement has to be inside of a courtroom. So I've had friends who have practiced since we left law school, and they can't tell you what happens inside of a courtroom. And the majority of our firm can't tell you what happens inside of a courtroom. I can. I actually met quite a few attorneys. I had I had a client who was so violent that, and he was this ultra rich guy. He had, violated bail allegedly by contacting his alleged victim, and may or may not have bitten a guard or two and spat at people. So when they wheeled him in, they quite literally wheeled him in like Hannibal Lecter. He was on, you guys are too young for Hannibal Lecter references. I don't know, some horror movie guy. They wheeled him in on a gurney, strapped to the gurney with a mask over his face, a spit guard, and his head was strapped to the back of the gurney because he was that kind of weird. Well, I'm never going to see that in the corporate world. I mean, if I saw that in the corporate world, we'd be having a big problem because that guy probably shouldn't have a computer. That kind of experience, though, doesn't happen in corporate. You won't get that if you're doing, well, you might get out of doing divorce. Divorces can be nasty. It is California. There's a lot of money at stake. But part of why I did it was for my diversity of interest. The things I wanted to see, I had to do that. So I actually handled a divorce case. I handled some corporate cases. Even while I was solo, I handled a few car accidents. I did drug cases. We had a guy, this is before weed was legal, try to pay us with a pound of weed while he was on bail for weed charges. And so, the guy was like, well, no, bro, that's like 10 grand, it's compressed. It's like, okay, that's all well and good, but if your attorney tries to sell weed, he's going to be side by side in the courthouse with you, and not because we're representing you. So the law, a prime minister of Jamaica once mentioned this. He's like, the law is not a shackle. So the law is very flexible, and you can really do a lot with it. And that's one of the best things about our field. You can stretch yourself, you can test things out. I still sometimes do pro bono work. I did a few DUI cases even while I'm doing corporate because I wanted to be back in court. So that works really well. Is that enough, Marcus, before I move on to the, okay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was wondering if you believe that there's like a significant like difference in whether or not you end up at a T14 like law school in the long run of your career.
I got you. I'm a weirdo, right? So if that's not clear by now, I probably shouldn't say this so often. I got into some Ivy League schools, and I got into UT at the time, and UT was, I think, like number 6 or 7 when I got in, but I've never seen snow in my entire life. And the day we were doing applications, there was an ice storm in Austin, and I was like, oh, nope, hell no, never coming back. So it can. There's it's a long way of saying it can. On your resume, it's gonna look really, really good on the start of your resume. But here's the thing. I went to school with some guys who graduated from Harvard and Yale, and those two idiots failed the bar. Not because failing the bar makes you an idiot. They failed it because they were so cocky, thinking we went to Harvard and Yale, we know better than the bar prep people. Well, here's the problem. You have this great resume, you have all of this background, and no one cares because you can't practice. And so at our firm, so with this firm, we had a guy who went, I think Marlon he went to Harvard. The problem was that guy was a moron. Like, I'm pretty sure that guy was legacy. So yeah, it'll get you that first job, but after that, I don't even know where my school transcripts are. I don't know the last time I updated my resume. I mean, when Charlotte read my resume, I think that's the last time I heard about it, because on this job, I used to work for the firm, left, like I said, because I'm not loyal, went to our rivals and came back and didn't even have to produce my resume. So sure. You know what? let me be real with you. The people who are gonna love the most that you got into a top tier school are your parents. But beyond that, it won't hurt. It's always gonna be helpful. It's great, sure. But go where you want to be, go where you get a lot of money. When I got into some of these Ivies, here's a big problem for me. They weren't giving me money. USD said, hey, we're about to make it rain. So I went to USD. Like, no snow, a lot of money, beautiful people, and I can see the water from the campus, even if I have to like climb up the hill, go to the angle, illegally get into the physics lab, and then look over. I can see the water. That's an amazing school. You will be fine. I make just as, I mean, I don't make a lot. Hold on, just in case. I'm all right. I'm doing okay. I'm not suffering. You will be fine. I promise you. The thing is that when you first go there, I just saw that message. But when you first go there, you may look around and you're going to be nervous. But some of the best producing lawyers I know went to schools that have a pass rate of 5%. What really matters is once you get there, just crush it. Just be the best. Try and be in the top 25 of the school. And then make sure you pass the bar. Nothing matters if you don't hit that final goal. It doesn't, and by the way, not passing the bar on your first try is not something to be worried about. I have a really good friend. She got hers on the 7th attempt, and she's a really good lawyer now, and no one knows. Our potential soon to be president, she did not pass the bar on her first try. And then what did she become? The attorney general of the most populated state in this country, the attorney general of the state with the 5th highest economy. She became a senator. She became a vice president. Not passing the bar doesn't reflect on who you are, but it reflects on what you will do next. Because if you went to an Ivy and don't pass the bar, all you are is someone with a law degree. So don't stress it. It's great. It's good, sure. You'll put on that Harvard shirt and wear it everywhere. You'll be going to volunteer at the food kitchen and it's going to say Harvard Law. And the rest of us are going to be behind you laughing and throwing pudding at your neck. Don't worry about it. You will be fine. Don't throw the pudding. Just walk up and smear it. It's so much easier. How to get a scholarship to a school like USD. I'll tell you one good way. That's a little too late for the rest of you guys. Get a zoology degree. Be different. Law schools really love diversity, and that's not diversity of person, that's diversity of background. Because I actually didn't put that I was Black on my application to law school, because I've told you guys already, I'm a weirdo and I'm a moron, and I should have. If I'd put that I was Black, I'd be driving a Ferrari by now, because they'd have given me so much money. They gave me a lot, but they'd have given me so much more. But what they really loved was, pre-med, got into med school. I was a zoology major. I worked at the hospital. I did all these things. I tutored literature. I tutored history. I was the vice president of the Caribbean Students Association. You guys are already in a law society, so you're doing clubs. You've got that. As someone so I do read the scholarship applications for USD, but they're anonymous. It doesn't matter. You could try and drop a hint that, hey, I once heard a Black attorney speak to us on September 30th, and maybe I'll get your application, but it's a blind process, so I won't know it's you unless you put all of that in there. But what I look for, and what we always look for, is that diversity, because everyone applying is gonna be smart, or at least I'd hope. It seems strange if you're not a smart person trying to go to law school. And most of you are gonna be depending on the school you go to, USD's admission rate, we're cleaning top 25 on average, but we'll take bottom 25 too, because we're looking for people that'll make the experience better. Let's this isn't Boeing, but let's do another real world type experience. The affirmative action cases went through, and they wiped off the alleged part of diversity for schools. Well, I don't know if you guys saw the news, but Asian admission to Ivy League schools has actually dropped because, funnily, affirmative action was a rising tide that lifted all boats. But the good thing about the affirmative action was that in the essays and in the documentation, it allowed for people to show more diversity of interests. Now what they're finding is that in blind admission, the problem is if you're an Asian student and a white student and a Black student and a Hispanic student, and you're all top 25%, what's the thing that sets you apart? What's the value that you're going to bring to this school? So I say it as if I'm actually on admissions at USD, though I do know the admissions people. So I know, and I also know the head of admissions at Cal Western. I don't want you to go to my rival, but if you do want to talk to someone, I'm happy to have him maybe reach out and talk to you guys. He's a traitor, but he's still my boy. So I'll if you guys remind me, I'll ask him, see if he's available. As long as you guys all then come back to my firm to try and give us information. You want to spread your wings as much as possible. Don't just be the person who does, I'm trying to remember, political science major. That's the one that everyone does. You're gonna be in a field of 50 political science majors. Maybe take a class in, I don't know, surfing. Just, half of our partnership at the firm goes surfing, even when they're supposed to be in court. As long as, so if I see something on a resume that's different, it grabs my interest. But when I just read down, okay, top 10, political sciences, humanities, was part of the law society, volunteered at a law firm, I'm like, cool. Okay, I'll give you 7 stars out of 10. But then you show me all of that and you went, and then I helped a baby giraffe fall out at the zoo. I'm like, well, what? Tell me more about this giraffe. I'm going to bring this kid in. Because when I go to these boring law student functions, not you guys are fun, but when I'm there in person and having to talk to someone and the student says, yeah, I used to race cars and I, one time beat Vin Diesel in a foot race. Well, hell yeah, let me talk to this person. So definitely show a little bit more range than the other people. But the biggest trick also is just apply. Apply for every bloody scholarship there is. The only thing that someone can tell you is no. And hey, Marcus, your friend doesn't have a shirt. the only thing they can tell you is no. But your life is so much easier. Back in the day, not back in my day, I'm not that old, but back in the day, all of these applications were by paper. So the biggest cost for students used to be resume paper and stamps. Now, like my goddaughter, I helped her. There's nepotism in life. I let her work for me, so she's got the background resume of working for an attorney. But she applied to maybe about 50 scholarships because it was all digital. Apply, apply, apply. As we found out, one of the big things is when people submit when you get a class action, a lot of times people don't submit their paperwork because they're like, oh, I'm only going to get $1. But if the class was $1,000 and only 100 people submit, then the rest of the money has to go to the people who submitted. So they're gonna get, so your money increases. So maybe there's a scholarship for people whose first name is French and last name is a steakhouse. Only 2 people are gonna apply. You might be that person who wins. So just apply to every scholarship. Never stop applying. I love free money. I make a lot of money, but when we have law firm events, Marlon will tell you, I will trip everyone to try and get that extra $10. That gift card to Starbucks, I don't even drink coffee, but I want it. I want it because the joy is in winning. I don't care if somebody else wants it. I want that money like I need it. So always apply. Plus, you're about to become a lawyer. You should be cutthroat. Go for it. That was a good question. Thank you. As I rant and rave about everything else.
There was a question, I think, from Roman earlier in the chat saying, can you talk about
the research process?
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me. See, this is why I have a team. I no longer read. I can barely write. But the great thing is when you have a team, we can all work together. So the research process when you get a client, the kind of research you have to do, and where do you look for sources? Let's take it in order. Years ago, one of the heads of the bar mentioned that he loves our kind of work because we're the only type of law firm that doesn't need to seek clients. Clients come to us. Now, it's not 100% true because that guy ended up in jail for actually bribing clients by paying them money and saying to them, hey, once we bring this case, we'll give you X amount of dollars. But in the ghost of what he said is true. The majority of our clients actually come to us because we put out press releases. So when, as I had mentioned to you guys, when there's first a class action, after the initial class action is filed, the court gives a 60-day, what is known as almost a go shop period, that anyone who wants to join the class or potentially lead the class can come to the law firm. So that's why we send out all these press releases, or we'll send out emails to our contact group. And typically what will happen, someone's broker will send them the email like, hey, you own shares of Apple. Apple is now being sued because they misled shareholders into thinking that their website was safe and people input their information, it was no longer safe. So the client will receive that information and they'll hit us up. What we do then, though, is after we get what we think might be a suitable client, we do have to run a background check, because the idea is that that person is now representing everyone who has Apple shares. Well, we had a guy come to us potentially to be a lead, but 4 years prior, he'd been convicted of financial fraud. Now, that's a little problematic, right? We can't tell the court this is going to be the best person to lead a financial litigation when this guy has been convicted of financial fraud. So once we get your information, it's going to suck for you, but we're going to do everything in the background. We check all the way down to DUIs and speeding tickets. Our background check is very thorough. Sometimes we discover things that the client himself didn't know. We've had instances where we tell the client, hey, you've got us on your record. The court says you've missed court dates. And they're like, wait, I didn't even know I was being sued. We will background check you. But the research itself, the biggest concern is actually what's happening with the company. So while we may do the background check, while we do the background check, as long as you're not some psycho killer and don't have Marcus, I love your background, bro. As long as you don't have something really crazy going on in your life, you're almost always going to be a good client for us. The two things we definitely want, though, are your client availability. We're not going to ever take up much of your time. Why people love our kind of law as in terms of the clients is that most of the work is being done by me in the background. We're the epitome of Hollywood. That's what the law is. It's hurry up and wait. So we're going to ask you for your stock information at the start, and we're going to press you for that. And then we're just going to do everything in the background for you. We're going to fight. What we do need is that when we're going to send you something digitally, so if you have to approve a filing, I'll call you and I'll walk you through it. But if you're the kind of client that's like, hey, I never answer my phone or I never check my emails, well, that's going to be problematic. So we let you know up front. We need availability. And our sources. Oh, and you do need to hold on to your stock. If we're doing what's known as a derivative litigation, and we're suing because the board of directors has harmed the company, say you have 10 shares in Apple, that's great. We'll bring the litigation on your behalf. And so let me be clear. If any of you guys have shares or stocks in companies, give us a quick shout after this. I'll put my email in the chat, as well as I think Marlon has already linked our information. Oh, there it is. Proving once again that I'm not a big fan of typing my own stuff anymore. I'm having to double check while I talk and type. I used to be really good at this, and then I got a team. So I've lost all those skills. But send us your stock. Tell us what stocks you're invested in. We'll input you into our database. Because when we're looking for someone and we want to bring litigation, if we know that, say, Marcus has shares of, since we've already slandered Boeing, let's just use Boeing. If you have shares of Boeing and Charlotte has shares of Tesla, and we're bringing cases on both of those, what we'll do is we'll email Marcus and say, hey, our records show that you have Boeing shares. And then I'll email Charlotte. I'm like, hey, our records, I'm not going to play on the, hey, you guys remember me as a cool guy that, gave you a talk, wore a polo, made fun of Pierre made fun of Marcus's background. I'm not I'm not going to do all of that. I'm just going to say, Charlotte, you've got Tesla stock. Here's what's happening in Tesla. Would you like to be a part of that litigation? And the good thing is you can always say yes, you can always say no. But the reason why a lot of people say yes to us is that there's this thing known as service or incentive awards, depending on the jurisdiction that they're in. And a service award can range from $2,500 to $50,000 just because you brought that litigation. So the problem is we can't guarantee it. So that lawyer told you about going to jail, the big problem was that he was guaranteeing it. He'd say, yo, you bring this litigation, I'll give you 50 grand because I'm going to make $1 million against Apple. What will happen now is we can't guarantee you it, but we're always going to ask the court to award it to you. And a decision came down about, well, maybe 8 or 9 months ago where the court has said they would like to defer to the attorney's opinion. Well, here's the thing. Our opinion is always, we want you to get a service award. So it's a stronger chance now than ever before that just for holding stock and bringing a matter to us, you will now have a potential $2,500. So one of the guys we just did a settlement for 2 weeks ago, and these are the calls I love. I got to call him and say, hey, the case is settled. I just need your updated W-9 because we're about to send you $5,000. And he starts giggling on the phone because that guy only had $130 of stock. So he just made essentially a killing from just holding on to shares that he'd had for 10 years, slowly growing. But that's the law. He's going to make some money. So that's one of the bonuses. We're always happy to do these kind of cases. We love getting people who are in school because you guys have started dabbling in stock and you're going to grow with us. And the good thing is, whether you decide to go with our firm or another firm, we'll at least let you know if there's potential litigation happening. So our program is called Stock Watch. Literally, you just input whatever stocks you have. You can email me or you can jump on our website. I'd love if you email me because then I get credit and the firm looks like I'm actually working. You guys ask me what my day-to-day is. My day-to-day is trying to make the firm think that I work harder than I do. I work smarter. I don't even need these glasses. I just put them on to look like I'm smart. So you hit us up and you just, you tell us what stock you have. And if there's a potential for litigation, because we're always looking, I hate to say it, but there's never a day without some corporate malfeasance. Companies are always doing something shady. And so if you have stock in that company, why not try and get some money, right? We're not here to harm the companies. We're here to improve the company's governance, as well as if we improve what the company is doing, there's less fines, there's less SEC fines. Your stock will go up. And then on top of it, you may get that service award. So we've had cases where someone's stock has risen. My portfolio has gone up. I think I just had a talk with my financial advisor. And again, I'm doing all right. I'm not rich. Just want to be clear. But my portfolio has gone up 48% over the last 4 years. So you can literally be making money on your portfolio while still being a member of litigation, because companies rise and fall. They'll do something dumb this week. The litigation happens, and next week they settle and they acquire an artificial intelligence company and suddenly put it in their new phones and pretend that Google never had it. And now we have to all go and buy an iPhone 16 because I still like my blue text and I can't read in green, and I'm that kind of sucker. But hey, service award still there for you. So we're always happy to help. Any other questions on that one?
I think we're getting to the end of our time because we only had you till 5, but
Oh, dang. Yeah, I didn't even know. See, that's the problem with a lawyer. We talk too much.
no, that was great information. Learned a lot. I think we all did.
Well, it's
Oh,
been my
also
pleasure.
we did record our meeting. Do you mind if we upload it to our YouTube just for our members who couldn't make it?
Oh, hell no. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. You're more than welcome. I'm happy to have that done.
Okay.
If you could, when you upload it, can you link us so that we can also add it to our page and potentially spread it a little bit further, get you maybe some new members?
Oh yeah, I think we can do that. Our secretary will let us, she'll do that for us.
Oh, you're already going to be a fine lawyer, passing the work off. Good job.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the resources as well. If there's anything else, we'll forward to everyone in our group me. Is your email okay? And then we'll send this
Completely.
stock watch thing is really interesting.
Yeah, it's completely fine. It's the work email. What do I care? Go for it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming.